knowledge with the Academic Minute. Each day, travel with us around the world to learn what professors are researching within their specialties and be the first in the know. Listen as we discover the newest green innovations, research the behavioral patterns of animals, and examine how the arts are being studied today. You'll find it all on the Academic Minute.
Listen every weekday afternoon during the KSJE Evening News at 5:30. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, your community hospital with a rich heritage that dates back to before New Mexico was a state. We've been improving the health of the Four Corners since 1910. As a nonprofit hospital, San Juan Regional Medical Center is a values-driven organization. We strive to deliver on our mission to personalize health care and create vitality and enthusiasm in healing. We are here for you when you need us, offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services. Twelve minutes past 8 o'clock. It's Friday morning, February the 15th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin, and thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM, the information and cultural beacon of the Four Corners. A special good morning to our viewers who are watching us live this morning on the KSJE Facebook page and YouTube channel. Welcome aboard, everybody. It's good to have you with us. Coming up in just a moment this morning, we'll be talking with my guest, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett. But first, we want to pass along a few school closings and delays that we've been made aware of today. Here is a look. Closed today for Central Consolidated Schools. Their schools in Newcomb are closed today. Also, Neschitty Elementary School is closed. On a 2-hour delay, Fort Lewis College is closed up in Durango, and Dulce Independent Schools are on a 2-hour delay as well. And we can show you why Fort Lewis College is on a delay because of a little bit of weather they got overnight. Here's a look for you watching us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel from a few moments ago, courtesy of DurangoLiveCam.com, but roads are snow-covered in the Durango area, and that is why Fort Lewis College is on a 2-hour delay today. Back here at home, we can talk about what's coming up later on this morning. As I mentioned, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett will be my guest here in the next few moments, and then later on, we'll be talking to the one and only Wally D. A little bit of sports coverage on a Friday morning at 8:50 today. Don't forget, at 9 a.m., Mick Hess will be here roving with the arts. Today, Mick is finishing up his playing of music from the production Showboat for us. That's coming up after the news at 9 o'clock here on KSJE. At noon, we are going to be previewing next weekend San Juan Symphony concerts with my guest Thomas Heuser, the music director of the San Juan Symphony. There'll be concerts in both Farmington and Durango next weekend. We'll be talking about the concerts and what's on the schedule coming up today at 12:06 on our Friday Spotlight program on KSJE. And of course, don't forget, at 12:30, it is our storytelling program produced in cooperation with our friends at the Farmington Public Library, Cuentos, Hana, and Tales. That's coming up today at 12:30 on KSJE, so don't forget about that. But this morning, let me introduce my guest who is here with us today in the studio. Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett is back with us. Mayor, welcome back.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good to see you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks.
Always excited to be here.
Well, thank you. You always accept my invitation, so I appreciate it very much. When
absolutely.
I say, Mayor, come on the show. So you were in Santa Fe not too long ago. We saw a few mayor's tables. You moved your table all the way to Santa Fe.
We did.
And did a couple of shows from there. And I wanted to bring you on to kind of talk a little bit about what you found when you got to Santa Fe. It's always an experience.
Sure.
And what city residents and even county residents maybe should be watching and paying attention to as a legislative session now begins its last half, I think, of its 60-day session. So give me some idea of what you found. I mean, is there just the streets paved with gold? I mean, there's so much money in the state budget this year. There's a surplus.
You know, I wish I could sit here, Scott, and tell you some positive things that I think are going on in Santa Fe. Unfortunately, when we have a particular set of legislators who have seen this surplus that was created by oil and gas as an opportunity to try and kill oil and gas.
That doesn't seem to make sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. And I've used this analogy, in your own home with you and your partner. If one of you has a skill set that creates a lot of money for your income for your family, and then just all of a sudden you just say, we're just not going to do that anymore. Well, what are you going to do to replace that income? And that's really been the question when we talk about diversifying the economy, not just here locally, but statewide. What do you do when there's not coal production and coal mining and coal power plants and oil and gas production? What does the state do then? $2.2 billion was a record-setting year for oil and gas production last year, which created the surplus that is now being worked into a future budget where it's going to be recurring costs on something that's a surplus. How can you budget in a surplus? I mean, oil and gas goes up and down.
Right.
A surplus is more than the average, more than the normal. But what we're seeing going on right now is, unfortunately, Scott, for people who live in northwest New Mexico, it's frightening because our way of life is being challenged. And we have to find a way to deal with that.
Right. And certainly we understand the need to diversify the economy. I mean, that's something you and I have talked about a number of times. You've talked about it.
Absolutely.
And so, but this seems to be kind of a more urgent shift from the traditional economies that have helped this part of the state.
Well, I have this opinion about those who walk around all day long saying the sky is falling. And every morning they get up and they look in the mirror and they go, the earth is going to end and we must save it. Well, there's a lot of things that we need to save. And our concern, of course, here, when we talk about economy, we talk about people's ability to have a job where they feed their families, where they want to live in New Mexico, not just because it's a beautiful place to live and we have great outdoor recreation and a quality of life that you can't find in other places, but because they can make a living. So the other day I shared information on my Facebook page. It was an op-ed by a UNM college student who had basically said, I have to leave the state because there are not career opportunities for me here. And I think a lot of people read that and said, well, that's similar to what I did. I left and we came back. And I'm glad we came back. I love Farmington. I love the area that we live in. But you simply can't govern a state by taking away the things that drive money into your schools. 40% of all the oil and gas dollars that come into the state go directly to schools. And in the same other side of your mouth, you're talking about the need to raise teacher salaries and increase pre-K schooling across the state. Well, how are you going to pay for those things if people are sitting there saying we're going to stop fracking for 4 years?
Which is a proposal at the legislature.
Which is a proposal right now. So some of these bills that are coming across there, it's like shock and awe almost. And we have the feeling, of course, the majority of those won't go anywhere. There's always, I think they're going to hear like 2,000 bills in a 60-day session. So there's going to be a lot of things that don't happen. But it's just the fact that individuals who have been tasked with representing constituents that voted for them in these cities all across the state, that there's no way that their constituents want those things. Or they simply don't understand how the economy works in New Mexico.
Right, and how dependent the state budget is on this revenue from the oil and gas industry, which is a proven fact.
Exactly.
That we know.
And
so that concerns you, obviously.
I lose sleep over things like this because it just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. Different people have different views, I guess, but I use a calculator and I like to talk about math, and I think math needs to be the driving force behind public policy more so than the sky is falling.
Sure.
Because the sky's been falling for a long time. When I was a kid, Time magazine put a thing out that said that the acid rain was going to kill the earth and the ozone was going to melt away and we were all going to die. And you go back to the Cold War. I mean, kids in schools were having nuclear, bomb drills in the schools. True. I mean, there seems to always be this push out there that the world is going to end and humankind is going to cause it. Well, I have no doubt that we play a part in a lot of the things that go on. But the way that it is just now, it is absolutely saturating people's lives and their minds. It's unfortunate because there's a lot of good things out there that we should be doing and can be doing that we're choosing not to do for one reason or another.
Right. But, so you're watching some of these bills that are going through that may or may not survive a committee process. and get to a vote. But folks that are watching us and listening to us this morning, I mean, what should they be watching? I mean, you're very concerned about the power plant and those jobs.
Sure. So San Juan Generating Station is obviously a big concern. House Bill 489, Senate Bill, SB 489. It's a big omnibus bill that was presented by Senator Candelaria.
80 pages or something.
It's 80 pages long. And in that bill, and I think you and Warren talked about this
just yesterday. Warren Unzicker was here.
And there's a lot in this bill. And I mean, one of the things, they were trying to make concessions for San Juan County, for Central Consolidated Schools, in providing some sort of assistance because they want to close the plant. Or P&M wants to close the plant.
Right.
So the state legislature, they want securitization for P&M because securitization gives P&M a lower bond percentage, or a higher bond rating, so they get a better deal when they go out to market for it, which will save P&M customers money, the ratepayers. Because they're closing the plant, they've tried to work in here money for economic development, workforce training here in San Juan County, but who's controlling that money? That's been the question from the very beginning: is who's going to tell us what we can and can't do?
That was something Mr. Unzicker mentioned yesterday.
Right.
Was that it may be more controlled by the state and not the local entities?
Well, and we know it will be, right? We know it will be. And the concern, of course, is, let's say, for example, we get a project where a petrochemical company wants to come to Farmington, and the state is on this no carbon energy, and there's no money that's provided for economic development for those kind of jobs, and those are high-paying jobs. So if the state has control of that, there's no telling what strings they will attach to it that we can't pull. Then, of course, they had talked about replacement power being built in Central Consolidated School District to replace the property taxes that would be lost at the closure of the plant. Well, there's even giant loopholes built into that doesn't guarantee that any replacement power. It can simply just be say that maybe we get a priority on that. But if you're a company, you're trying to make the best deal for your ratepayers and for yourself and for your shareholders, if building it in San Juan County is not something that's going to be beneficial to those people, then you probably don't want to do that. And unless it's dealing with grid stability, but I'm pretty sure that once electrons hit into the grid, those are electrons, whether they came from San Juan County or they come from Los Lunas. So it's just there's not a whole lot guaranteed built into this. That's our concern. They came to the table and said, we're going to give you these things, but clearly in the language that exists as it is right now, which we are working on, and they have asked us to come to the table, and they have asked us for feedback.
Which is good. That's a positive, is it not?
Well, they've been asking me since March of 2018, Mayor, what do you want? And so from the very beginning, we've been very clear with what we want. We want extension of the plant. This plant was built to last until 2053. We want the 1,500 jobs. We want to keep families in our community. That's what we want. And unfortunately, that's not what they want. They want to see this plant closed permanently, and they being, the environmentalists, want it closed completely. Right. There's a push, of course, across America to close coal power plants down. Right. But beyond that, I mean, that's who's pushing that side of it. So we see this as it's still a valuable asset for the state. It's a valuable asset for our area. There are 3 coal plants in northwest New Mexico, from Grants up to APS, and of course San Juan. And we still feel that it's a place that could operate and provide jobs and economic opportunity for families.
And that's part of the other stuff that I read about that are in some of these pieces of legislation, is that even though P&M has made it very clear they want to get out of the coal power business, what would keep another operator from moving in if they can make it economically viable? But there are some things in some of these bills that would maybe make that prohibitive.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what you're concerned about too, right?
Yeah, right. Page 80, I think, is what keeps getting talked about on this thing. And, and in that, and what we'd asked for when they said, Mayor, what do you want? You know, if we create this bill, what do you want? Well, we want replacement power guaranteed. We want economic development cash. But we also want the ability for that plant to continue operating.
As a plant, as a power plant, not as a
as a power
parking
plant.
lot.
Right, as a power plant. And a mine. And so we just keep reiterating this need for jobs and extension, and we are part owner of the plant, which gives us the right, the contractual right to market the plant and find another owner.
The city of Farmington Electric Utility is a part owner of one of those stacks at
43 megawatts
at the
we own coming out of that facility. And so we have the right to market it and find a buyer. And if the state steps in and they take that right away from us, well, I mean, that's in violation of the contract. That's opportunity for lawsuits. We don't know whether or not that would be a fruitful lawsuit or not for us. But the fact is that we do have potential buyers sitting right now on the sideline watching all of this take shape, and we are hopeful that we'll find somebody who's going to stick, and this does not occur in the state legislature where they put emission standards on there that are going to kill the power plant. The language in this particular bill deals directly with San Juan Generating Station, not with the other two coal-fired power plants in New Mexico. It's directed at the closure of this plant,
Right.
not the other two.
No.
So those things are very concerning to us. You know, look, the amount of emissions coming out of San Juan Generating Station, this is the cleanest burning coal plant in America. And it's a value. It still has a lot of value built into it. And I want to be clear for anybody listening to this. This is not an argument about coal versus renewable energy. This is not that argument at all. If there was a company who came in, let's say P&M pivoted and they started running a biochemical company and it was going to create 1,500 jobs, well, fine, then all right, close the coal plant down. But in 2013, before 2017, we had worked hand in hand with P&M to put in the BART technology that was going to extend the life of the plant, and we worked hard with them on it. And we got that through. We had no concerns that it wouldn't be open for at least another 30 years. And in 4 years' time, that all turned around.
Right.
So it's right. I don't want to play the victim, which is why we have done what we've done here in the city of Farmington, is to say, look, we need to come together. Everybody needs to understand that there's got to be some economic diversification that we can all believe in, and we created the CTED fund for that very reason. We're trying to find some catalyst projects that will actually bring businesses here, and that's, man, it may be just a toss in the wind that some of these things don't necessarily stick or don't create the jobs we want them to create. But if we don't try, then what are we doing? We're sitting around and we're waiting.
Right.
We're going to end up like. And I mean, there's other cities in the state that are a great example of what's happened when those power plants dry up and things go away.
Sure.
Well,
and there's a lot of conversations happening around Page, Arizona right now with their power plant too. Same type of situation. And so it seems like it's really about jobs.
It's all about jobs.
When I hear you talk.
And this is, I mean, it's interesting.
And there's been no proposal to replace a one-to-one job replacement
because
plan.
It takes private businesses to do that. Government's not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing with anything dealing with jobs. We need private industry to invest. And right now the state's not a great place for private industry to invest. Within this bill, I mean, let's think about this for a second. Maybe you and Warren talked about this. But if P&M gets securitization, that's $375 million that they're going to get that they weren't getting from the Public Regulation Commission, because the Public Regulation Commission is where the other battle is being fought, and that's why we went to Santa Fe to begin with, was to be there for the hearings where these 4 or 5 commissioners up there said, we want to hold P&M accountable. They need to file the abandonment paperwork so that we can start this process, so we can start having public hearings, and we want to talk about what Farmington has concerns about. And one of the commissioners may have just been playing it up for us because we were there that day, but she made the statement, we may not want to close this power plant down. And so you hear these things
because of the economic
impact,
ripple effects.
That's right.
In these neighboring communities, right?
It's not just what's going to happen up here. P&M's going to have the ability, based on law, right? Look, they can only do what the state tells them to do. And if the state tells them that we want a 50% renewable portfolio standard by whatever it is, 2045 or 2035, that means P&M, who is basically a monopoly of some sorts here in the state. I mean, there are other producers, they're smaller, but P&M has to go out now and they have to build renewable power. So they're going to build solar, they're going to build wind down in the south. Well, who's going to pay for that? Well, the ratepayers have to pay for that. So the ratepayers are going to be holding that bill. Then they have to provide the backup power. And so far as I know at this point, batteries are not ready for utility scale. They're very, very expensive. It'd be a huge investment.
Right. When there's no sun, no wind, what do you do?
Yeah. So you've got to have 100% backup of all that renewable power. So now they're going to have to go build gas power plants, which is where this idea of replacing that power here in San Juan County comes in, because they're going to have to build it.
Right.
So who holds the bill for that? Well, P&M customers hold the bill for that. So P&M has said that those bills are going to go up, but if you look at California, their bills went up 60%. So I live in a state where 49% or 40+% of my population is on Medicaid. They're on some sort of welfare assistance. And now we're telling us that their rates are going to go up 60%. On top of that, what's in this bill, we thought that they would be kind of segmenting out the industry, the big industry power users, because again, you want to be enticing for companies to come in and create jobs. And if you're going to increase 60% rates for big industrial users, those people aren't going to open their businesses here. They're not going to expand here. Matter of fact, they're probably just going to pull themselves off the grid by their own generation, which you can do now.
Yeah,
we're seeing this happen, and take themselves completely off, which again just puts more pressure on the regular ratepayers, and you're going to see their prices go up. Arizona did the same. Arizona State did a study when they were considering the bill last year about setting the renewable portfolio standard.
Right.
Arizona State did it, and they anticipated that rates in Arizona would go up 100%. Double.
Right.
So so you hear these things, and you're like, look, man. I mean, I get everything in life is starting to cost more, but we have a motto here in Farmington Electric Utility that we're going to provide the most reliable, affordable power that we possibly can. And because we're not a publicly regulated utility, we can actually do that for our customers, which is why our electric bills are so much less than anywhere else. But if you're a solar company, you want to be in New Mexico. They need to be in New Mexico. 300 days of sunshine. I mean, the return on investment, my understanding, is because we're not as hot as Arizona. Heat's a major problem for those solar panels, and it's just too hot in Arizona. But in New Mexico, you've got that perfect setting. But they're not here yet, and nobody's stopping them from coming. There's this idea that we have some opposition, that we're just hard-headed about letting solar in. Look, man, build a solar field.
Right.
But just don't have it in the same conversation where you tell me that that closing a power plant with 1,500 jobs can somehow be replaced by the 30 people after construction, right? Because there is a big build-up for...
Sure, you've got a lot of people building
but the
these
long-term jobs that exist there, we're talking 30 people.
Right.
40 people, I don't know.
Not the same.
Not the same.
Right.
Which...
Right.
We understand. We understand that's where the world's going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's create a glide path to get us there. Let's give these communities that are going to be impacted this more time to diversify their economy, and let's give them some tools to do it with.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Mayor Duckett is my guest this morning, the mayor of Farmington. We're going to take a short break, Mr. Mayor. When we come back, more of our conversations about what's going on in Santa Fe, but even more of what's going on right here in the city that
we can control.
That you can control, and you have.
We're trying.
And taking some steps to do that. So we'll be back with more in just a moment with my guest here on KSJE. Everybody, the time is 8:32.
A look into internet life behind the Great Firewall of China. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech, demystifying the digital economy. I'm Jed Kim, in for Molly Wood.
Marketplace Tech is